Welcome back to Every Horror Film Where Horror is Forever. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. Sorry we had a little bit of a hiatus there, but we went through so many Halloween movies. I think we needed to just recoup and take a little break.
Needed a
Uh,
break, dude.
Absolutely. But we're back just in time before Christmas. And while this is not a Christmas movie, it is a Christmas weather. It's cold outside. There's snow. This is a good movie to watch during Christmas to get yourself in the field for it. So
Yeah, dude.
why not?
Yeah, bust out those beanies like we did. Let's watch some cold weather movies.
That's right. So without further ado, this is one of the most highly anticipated movies that we have ever reviewed on this channel and probably will ever review because for one of us, this is our favorite horror movie of all time. And with that being said, Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to let you set us up for The Thing.
Let me tell you something. We watched a lot of Halloween movies. We watched some of the best of John Carpenter. We watched the pinnacle of horror that came from the 70s. But you don't know. You don't know what came out of the 80s. You don't know what came out of 82. And specifically, what came out of 82 is not only John Carpenter's best movie of his entire filmography, I would argue, what I believe is the greatest horror movie of all time. And I'll die on this hill. I'm passionate about it. Since the beginning of every horror film, man, I've been ready to review this because I don't think a lot of people know about 1982's The Thing by John Carpenter, but it's time you learn because you can't call yourself a horror fan without realizing that this is at least in the running for the best horror movie of all time. So, with that being said, man, you, tell me about it. How many times have you seen it? When was the first time you saw it? What was your first impression when you saw it?
So there are, for me to call myself a horror aficionado, which I would say is true, there are still a great deal of classic movies I have not seen. And for a long time, this was one of them. I had always heard about this movie, but I had never seen it, honestly, until this year. I had never seen it until this year. And I bought it on Blu-ray a long time ago, and I was like, one day I'm going to be in the mood. I'm going to watch this film. And I just kept putting it off, kept putting it off, and I never really got around to it until sometime this year. It was the spring or the summertime. I can't remember because I saw this for the first time. And then me and you, we were going to do a review of this earlier in the year around summertime because it was the 40th anniversary of the movie coming out. So we
Mm-hmm.
went and saw it in theaters. It was great, great experience. Cool seeing it on the big screen. We just never got around to it. But now here we are. And, I had always heard people hyping this movie up a lot. And, I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know too much about it. So I went into it. And the two times that I've seen it, I can without a doubt, to me, I still need more time with it, but I can for sure say that this is definitely one of the best horror films of all time. This is a staple film. And it's funny, when this movie came out, it flopped hard. Critics hated it. It flopped hard at the box office. This was competing with E.T. Whenever it came out, a couple weeks from each other. So E.T. was the real big family friendly movie of the summer, the big blockbuster hit. People were not a fan of this. It was a gross movie in a way. There was the special effects, which we'll talk about, the practical effects, just was not up. It just wasn't right for that time, for that crowd, for those people. So this really flopped. This almost was the end of John Carpenter's career in a way, and thank goodness for such things as home video because as years went on, this built up a cult following, and now, it's like it's one of the holy grail of horror films.
Yeah, man. And John Carpenter. John Carpenter is a name that's synonymous with like cult classics in terms of horror. Like They Live would be the biggest one. Ghosts of Mars or Ghosts on Mars, I can never remember. That's a more modern one. John Carpenter's got a lot of cult classics, man. But I would say that this is the one that graduated from cult classic to just absolutely like set the bar for everything afterwards because the, I said in the Halloween reviews, there's 4 golden rules that we're going to talk about here, and those 4 golden rules, this movie, this movie is the one that gave me those golden rules. This is the one that set the bar. I got those rules because of this film exactly. This is one of the only films that nails all 4. And we'll get into that, but man, if you haven't seen this, get out there and see it, because this is something different, man. I know a lot of people will say The Exorcist is the greatest horror film of all time. I might argue that too if I felt like it. Other people would say like Halloween. Other people would say, purists would say like Nosferatu. More modern audiences might say like The Conjuring or something like that. But truly, man, this is this is horror at its peak, man, and it doesn't get better than this. It's just, let's get into it, dude. What is this movie about? This movie is about, short and sweet, movie takes place in Antarctica. America's got a research team out there in Antarctica. They get a very rude awakening from, I believe it's Polish. I believe it was the Polish in the other base. I don't remember exactly.
Norwegians.
Norwegian. I haven't seen this movie in like 2 months. So I don't remember. But so movie opens up with this husky dog getting chased through the snow, getting shot at by a Norwegian helicopter. No explanation why. You get this really weird, ominous heartbeat sound of a soundtrack. And this Norwegian helicopter, man, is chasing this dog through the snow. This guy who doesn't speak English is trying to kill this dog, and there's no explanation why. They run up to an American base a couple of miles away. America's like, all right, let's take on this dog. Norwegian's like, not speaking English, very adamantly just trying to kill this dog. He wants it dead. He mishandles a grenade, blows up the helicopter. The Americans like, all right, enough of you. Shoot him dead, right? They keep the dog. We don't know what's going on. But, we get to introduce, the American researchers in this base and get to learn a little bit about what they do. Kurt Russell, the star, one of the stars of the 80s, is leading this research team. McCready is his name. And they take in this dog. And, it's business as usual until things start happening in the base that they really can't explain. And what it seems to be stemming from is this very, very creepy dog, right? Let's just say this, man. This is, even if you don't like this movie, this is the best animal actor of cinema history, right? This is the best dog we've ever seen on screen. That I was reading like interviews and stuff where they were talking about how the dog was just so professional, like it would not, it wouldn't stray from the eyesight, and it would always keep its eyes focused on what it was supposed to be looking at, and it never interact with other people behind the cameras when the cameras were rolling. Best dog ever. And what we find out later is this dog is infected by a shape-shifting alien host who is hell-bent on taking over the bodies of any human it comes in contact with and getting out of there. And that's the short and sweet version of it. But man, I don't want to even go into the plot so much because I just want to talk about how much I love it. What were your expectations going into it? Like when you watched it the first time, how much of it did you understand? How much of it was mystery? Because there is a bit of a mystery to it.
It's a good point you bring that up, because when I talk about this movie on this review, I'm going to talk about it from the first time that I saw it. So I really had no expectations. I knew very, very little about the plot. I kind of had an idea there was this alien thing and Kurt Russell was in it and they were in the middle of Antarctica. That was really all about I knew. I did a very good job of staying away from spoilers for this movie for so long. So like to mention in that opening scene where it's first off, the score in this movie is great, but it's not, it's not Halloween where there's different kinds of musical cues and scores and things that really sound good. The score,
minimalist.
It's minimal. It's so minimal, but it works so good. The heart thumping that you were talking about, the dum 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 dum, like that works perfect throughout the film. And then you add a couple things here and there to mix it up, and it works great. I feel like for most people, they get really emotionally gripped whenever an animal is like in the midst of like a real situation, and seeing these people chase down this dog and trying to shoot it, you're like, why do they want to shoot a dog? Like, no, but you know, you kind of know something's up. But you know, that really invests you right away. And you know, these Norwegians, they show up and they're trying to shoot this dog, and the Americans are there, and then they shoot him and they kill him, and we kind of get introduced to all the characters. And you know, this research team, they've been out here for a couple weeks now, and you know, it's going to be a long, cold winter, and you know, they're basically barricaded inside this, you know, this research center where it's just them. I think there's what, 7 or 8 of them, something like that. I could be wrong. You know, so many good characters. Obviously, Kurt Russell being the star, and then you've got so many other good guys. But you know, it's such a good setup. And you know, we don't have to do the scene by scene breakdown of that we typically do for every movie, but you know, essentially we get into this next part, you know, where the dog's kind of acting weird and everyone's starting to think something's up for a little bit. And then, you know, it comes nighttime, everybody's starting to wind it down. So um you know, one of the guys like, hey, go put this dog up. And one of the guys, he's very attached to the dogs, and he puts them in the kennel and with all the other dogs that night, and he goes and he lays down and he knows something's up with his dog. And then he sits there, all the dogs start freaking out and they start barking. And then, dude, one of the greatest special effects, practical effects, whatever you want to call it, happens right before our eyes. This dog transitions into this thing, and this alien thing, and it just it, it's insane to see this thing happen, this transformation. And then all the guys run out and they're like, what's going on? And they run outside into the pen and they see that this dog has turned into this thing. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's I mean, it really drops you right into it. I mean, from the beginning, you know something's up with the dog because no dog acts that um, focused and intent. Especially around strangers. I mean, but you're taking in this strange dog who is a phenomenal actor, and you put him in a kennel with like half a dozen other animals that he doesn't know. And the first thing he does is walk in, lay down, and stare at the wall and not make eye contact with any other dog in there while all the other dogs are going nuts. People are going crazy. He might be hungry. He might be trying to get out. No, you know that this dog is not a normal dog. So the other dogs immediately know what's up. He turns into this monstrosity of just practical effects and gore, and there's really no good way to describe it, other than just this whole movie is probably the pinnacle of practical effect creature design. Really, I can't describe it in a way that does it justice, so you just have to see it for yourself. But nightmare fuel is what it is. I mean, it's horrifying just to see that, the body horror. And people are they're a little sensitive when it comes to like violence against animals on screen, so
Correct.
to see a dog basically turn his face inside out and it not be CGI. I mean, there's a real sense of dread and realism that comes with that, to see other dogs trying to escape and getting strangled by tentacles that are real and not actually CGI. Like there's that sticks with you for a long time, and having to come in and put those dogs down with a shotgun just as quick as possible because it's doing something to them. It from the moment that happens, it sticks with you. It does such a good job introducing this threat and just the mystery behind it. I can't put it into words because it's such a visual movie. And, the biggest thing it has going for it is the practical effects and the design of the creature. Um, you know, and every time the camera switches back to the dog in question, the alien dog, it's different. It's in a different form. It's bigger. It's scarier. It's uglier. There's no set visual for this animal. So this thing it's either like a zombie looking dog or it's a pile of tentacles. There's just this giant mass of flesh. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. The visualization that John Carpenter had to do to put this thing into action is just, how do you even think of that, man? Like like I can think of like an alien taking the form of a dog, and then just like, oh, he's an alien dog. But no, dude, this, like I said, this dog turned his face inside out, and then he shot off tentacles and turned into this giant pile of flesh with however many legs. How do you come up with that, man, in a genre that's so new to film?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the scene where they're there, and the dog is transforming, and it's starting to kill the other dogs, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger. And they sign off the fire alarm, and then McCready comes in, and Childs, played by Keith David, he's got the uh the flamethrower jetpack on, and he's like torch him, and he's like, I don't want to torch this dog, and then he takes it from him, and then he does it, and sets this whole thing on fire, and finally kills it. And then all the guys there are like, holy shit, I can't believe this just happened. So later on that day or that night, the next day, they take the remains of this thing and they lay it on the table, and they're looking at it, and it's just a blob of different organisms that it's consumed, and it's gross looking, but it's so good practical effects wise. It looks so realistic, and they're all kind of looking at it, and they're starting to put together a correlation. These Norwegians were coming after this dog, and now we know this dog was something. We're not sure what it is. We need to go find those Norwegians, that base, and see where they're at, and see if they might know something. So McCready and a couple of the guys, they head up in a helicopter, and the weather's so bad during that time, they shouldn't really be flying up there, but they are. So they go up there and they go to the Norwegian base, and they go look at this camp, and then they see that this base that these Norwegians were at has been completely dismantled. There's dead people everywhere. One of the scenes, you see like the Norwegians, like his throat was cut or his wrists were slit or something like that, and the blood has dried because it's so cold. It's really crazy to see. And while they're there, they're looking through all their stuff, and then they see like this grave site almost for this thing that has been uncovered by the Norwegians. And that really starts to tip you off that, oh, this thing has you know it's been put down before, but somehow it got unleashed back into the world.
Yeah, the storytelling from that point when they get to the Norwegian base is really like one of the great things about movies in the 80s and somewhat of the 90s and so much less about today. Movies today, when they want to explain exposition or backstory to you, do they feed it to you with lines of dialogue, right?
Correct.
But when McCready and the helicopter pilot are examining this Norwegian base, almost nothing is said. It's all visual. So the viewer has to learn what the viewer has to learn, and basically you really do feel like just as much as McCready does, and no more than that. Because I mean it just goes back to the Mark Hamill described something about George Lucas that really stuck with me with this movie, with this scene in particular. He said when he was talking about A New Hope for Star Wars, he was talking about the beginning scene where they're on the rebel ship, and the stormtroopers and Darth Vader, they bust into the ship and they start killing everybody. And Mark Hamill said to George Lucas, he said, "Why don't you have a scene where one of the rebels looks at the other rebels and goes, 'That's Darth Vader, the evil Lord of the Sith'?" And George Lucas tells Mark Hamill, he says, "Oh well, it's a white environment and he's all black. The music's really scary. He's a bad guy. We don't have to add those lines in there." And Mark Hamill, he said that blew his mind because he was like, he called it economical storytelling, where we just don't clog up the pages with just lines of exposition, right? And I love that because this movie and a bunch of other 80s movies are really good about that. The economical storytelling, like Mark Hamill said, and this Norwegian base scene is really a testament to that, because you don't feel like any more than Kurt Russell does, and that just adds to the mystery. Every frame you're just analyzing, looking for clues and stuff like that. It's so much fun to watch. There was a 2011 prequel we'll talk about a little bit at the end, to the thing where they explore what happened to that Norwegian base. It's the team of Norwegians. We'll talk about that at the end, but they did a really good job setting up that Norwegian base and getting everything in starting positions for that. So that was really good. But yeah, that whole scene the mystery of it, the gore of it, the practical effects of all the corpses being frozen in the Arctic, really phenomenal. Really sets you up for a good prequel. But yeah, the block of ice that they found that carved out, you can start to theorize. Okay, the Norwegians cut out this block of ice. Something clearly broke out of it. That's as much as we know now. They take some tapes back to the American base and they watch it and they find out that the Norwegians found a UFO crash in the Arctic. And they found this corpse buried in the ice. So that's where they picked it up, and that's where this thing came from. So you can form your own hypothesis about what transcended before the camera started rolling there. But yeah, man, the setting for Antarctica being, what it is, we get a lot of really sprawling, like outside, beautiful shots of like these enormous snowy deserts, right? And just miles and miles of nothingness. But it's so cold and it's so dangerous that you have this claustrophobic setting, anyways, right? A lot of people will be like, why don't they just leave the base? Dude, it's Antarctica. It's like 30 below there. You can't survive outside.
Correct.
So, a lot of these sweeping, establishing shots from a helicopter, really beautiful, and really gives you this idea that there is hope. But in reality, you can't leave the base, dude. So the claustrophobia is real with this. We get back to the base. If people are starting to find some weird stuff, man, some bloody clothes in the trash, just there's blood on the floor, things are happening, right? Blair, played by Wilford Brimley, who is, I guess, is the medical officer, he starts to have these really weird theories when he was analyzing the dog. He's like, this thing kind of is absorbing the dogs. It's absorbing the organisms it came into contact with. Then he looks at the dog handler. He's like, how long were you alone with this thing? The dog handler was like, I don't know, a couple hours maybe. Wilford Brimley was like, So we got to keep an eye on him. So right there, the distrust and the discourse between the team members is starting to form right there. And the viewer, us watching this movie, we know exactly what we see and nothing more. So our mind's running just as wild as Blair's is, having these theories. And I'm not going to go, I'm trying so hard not to go scene by scene, because if you're watching this review, you've seen it already, and I haven't seen it in the last week or so. So I'm just going to blaze through it, man. Basically, this alien takes the form of whatever organisms it comes into contact with. It absorbs them and it turns into them. It can't replicate clothing, so that's how you can kind of tell. And it's trying to survive and it's trying to get out. So it's this adapting, transforming organism. It creates this huge battle of mistrust with the crew. You never know who it is. You never know who is the thing and who isn't. There might be multiple that are infected by this organism. There might be none. You never know. So it's so tense and it's so dreadful to watch these guys increasingly become more agitated and more untrusting. It really is, man. It really is just like the gold standard for atmospheric and economic storytelling for real. Because even, dude, it took me a couple watches before I could even remember who was the thing and who wasn't in the next scene. Like, you really don't know. So it's just, God, I love it so much, man. I just can't say enough good things about it. You're so enticed by this movie. It really is. You really are. And when the thing does eventually reveal itself, it's some of the most grotesque and visually unforgettable things you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, it's one of those things where you feel claustrophobic, but in a world that's very open, but at the same time it's not, because it's so cold and the weather's so bad, you can't survive in the elements, so you have no choice but to be stuck inside where you are. And that's the last thing that you want to be with this organism, this alien, coming after you. And one of my favorite scenes is whenever, at some point in the movie, a little bit earlier on, where Blair, played by Wilford Brimley, who I never knew anything about other than Family Guy being the diabetes guy. And so when I watched this movie, I was like, that's Wilford Brimley. Holy shit. This is crazy. So I always thought that was funny. But there's a scene where he's like on the computer or whatever, and he's one of the main doctors there, and there's a scene where he's typing on there, and the computer is like, if it reaches the human population within X amount of time, it will take over the whole world in X amount of hours. In that scene, he just kind of looks down and he has this gun just sitting there, and like it just kind of makes you think like this guy thinks it's over. Like is he gonna kill everybody? Is he gonna kill himself? Like what's gonna happen? Because he knows just how bad this can get, but no one else really knows yet. It's especially in a day age like today, where we just had the pandemic, you never know just how quickly something can get out. So it really, I like that scene a lot. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite scenes also is the first time we really see the thing take over someone. They put the remains of it in the storage closet and kind of put it under this tarp, this body bag, whatever, and kind of leave it in there. And at some point, Bennings and Windows, I think, one of the guys, they're both in there and they're looking for stuff, and all of a sudden they come back, and Bennings has been taken over by the thing, and it's just like warped around his body and all this stuff, and then he disappears, and then they go outside, and they're like, there he is, we got to save him, we got to help him. And he's sitting there in the snow, and he looks completely normal almost. And then he pulls out his hands, and he's almost turned into this like alien. And then he makes like this groan, like noise. And then you're like, oh my God, like he's already turned into it. And you feel so bad for him. And then McCready just torches him. And you're like, what the hell? Like he just torched this man, but really he had no choice because he turned into the thing. And you really start to turn, the characters start to turn on each other, whether it's for good or bad is, that's up to you. But he felt like he had to make what was the right decision. For everybody else was to kill him because he'd already been taken over.
Yeah. It's a very tricky, what would you do in that scenario? And they explained it by he wasn't done morphing into him. That's why he had the hand sticking out, and that's why he did the groan. But had he finished, I mean, you would never know. So yeah. A split second decision, you either murder an innocent guy or you kill an alien. So it's a very tricky dilemma. And I just cannot praise enough about how it didn't explain that to me in exposition. Like I feel like if the thing was made in 2022, it would be, they would do it, they would torch him, he would die, and then they'd be like, well, I had to make the decision because it was either kill him or risk losing. Just like, stop feeding me lines. Let me make that decision for myself. Let me give me bare minimum lines of dialogue and let me fill in the gaps the way I see fit. That's what I like. That's a smart movie. And I just can't praise it enough for that. Because even as the whole gang of them is standing around the burning corpse, some of them might still be it. Some of them might still be those organisms. So you really just don't know. And it's tense, it's dreadful, and it's terrifying to think about. You got to get back inside with these people who may not be people. So it's tough. It really is. I gotta say about the groan too. That groan that he lets out, the sound design for the 80s, dude. For the 80s, like it's one thing. Like if a lion roared on camera, you could tell the sound was coming from the lion. If a guy was talking on camera, even if it was dubbed over, you could tell that the words are coming from his mouth. This groan from this creature, the sound design encompasses, if you listen to it on a good surround sound system, the sound encompasses everything. It gives you this real like sense of just overwhelming, presence there, not just coming from this guy. So the sound coming from the background rather than the speaker is incredible, and I really love that. That's one of my favorite moments in the whole movie. Probably second to the infamous and very iconic, parodied many times, blood test sequence. One of the smartest moments of this movie was the blood test. A lot of people didn't understand it the first time. I didn't even understand it the first time. But basically the theory was, McCready had a theory that it was trying to survive and didn't like pain. And when it was hurt, it would reveal itself, right? So he took a blood test of every single person in the base, and put them all in a petri dish and heated up some copper wire, and if he tried to burn the blood, if it was just normal human blood, it wouldn't do anything because it's a liquid. But if it was alien blood, it would react and try to get away from the hot iron, right? So that whole sequence of the blood revealing itself, and just like the 12 or 13 minutes that it takes, man, it's so tense. Like, because
Yeah.
that's when you start to feel like, oh, I thought he was it, but he's not. I didn't even think he was it, but he is it. So that kind of revealed that was super tense. Being tied to the couch. Dude, I can't say enough good things about this movie, man. Like, it's just so smart. And I cannot find another movie that does it as smart as this.
Yeah, this movie does a really good job of building tension in ways that you would, not typically see. Like the blood test scene is great. And everyone at that point in the movie, everyone's pretty much against each other in a way. And the movie, McCready is the protagonist in the film, and you're rooting for him because he's trying to figure it out, but he's kind of like an everyman. He's not really like the best guy, but he's just trying to do the best he can with what he's got in the situation that he's in. And he gets put in these positions where he has to make decisions, and that's not necessarily the best for everybody, but he has to do what he has to do. And the blood test scene is great, and they do a good job of setting it up to make you think that McCready is the thing, and he's trying to be the leader. So it's really a psychological trick. It turns out that during the blood test he is not. But that's a great scene. Another good scene that I love is the one with the blood bags, where they have all the blood, and then somehow they come back and they're getting ready to do the test, and then the blood bags are missing, and they can't seem to figure out who it was that had the key to unlock it to drain all the blood out. So it's really never clear who it is, and it's kind of up for you to decide.
Yeah, I'm glad they left that open ended because I still can't figure it out. I've read theories online that I agree with, but I've watched this movie probably 2 dozen times. I still don't have an answer.
Yeah,
Who got the ball bags?
there are a lot of theories that I've looked at that try to pinpoint it down who it is, but it's really tough to definitively say. So it's kind of up to you. And then another great scene that I love is whenever Blair starts to really lose his mind and goes crazy because we think at this point he has become the thing, and he really starts to he kills some of the dogs, and he starts trying to off everybody else, and he really starts to kind of lose it, and he's attacking everybody, and the whole group has to go in there and attack him and try to like pin him down, and they ended up wrapping him up, and then they take him outside into one of the shacks, and he's like he's in there for a couple days, and then he's just like, hey, can you guys let me out? I'm feeling a lot better now. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll think about it. And then they close the door like, no way we're letting that guy out. He's
No.
definitely the thing.
Right. And there was the majority of this movie has you think that Blair is like going to be the last guy who doesn't get infected. Like it does a really good job of like, oh, he might be the thing. Oh, he's not the thing. Don't worry about it. And like the majority of the movie is like, don't worry about it. He's not the thing. You're like, oh yeah, he was the thing the whole time. That makes sense. And that's really good too. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. Obviously, you get to the ending where Blair, it's revealed that he is the thing. Some of the last remaining survivors. They kind of go to where Blair had burrowed out of the shed and was trying to reconstruct the UFO from helicopter parts to escape. And then you start to think back like, oh, that's why he was running a simulation to see how long it would take to infect the population. Okay, gotcha. He was trying to create the discourse. He was like, watch Clark, he might be the thing, like
Correct.
just all that. Like, wow, like it. The movie does such a good job of not feeding you the answers that you have to think about it, and that is the best kind of movie. It really is. I skipped to the ending here, but dude, let's just talk about the number one thing this movie has going for it: practical effects. Have you seen, and tell me if I'm wrong, have you seen any practical effects or practical creature effects in a horror movie better than The Thing?
Not off the top of my head. I have not.
Yeah, aside from Jaws and maybe the animatronic scenes from Jurassic Park, I can't think of something better. It really doesn't get better than this. If it came out in the last 2 decades, it would be just half rendered CGI, you know. So
Right.
the practical effects make it feel so much more real, so much more present. It lets the actors, you know, have something to look at while they're acting, so it feels more authentic. And it's just, dude, it's unforgettable. You know, the thing has no definitive shape. So every shape that it takes is iconic. It really is. There's no, it's not like it's primary form and then it's, you know, alternative forms. It's not like that. You have no idea what this thing like. So someone asked me what to draw the thing. How do you draw the thing? I'm like, I don't know. I can draw you one of them. Like it's just like that. You know, you get the stomach opening with the teeth, man. You get the head spider, the iconic head spider. You know, you get in the blood test room, the guy just basically melting. You know, they get at the end, you get Blair who's morphing his fingers into the guy's mouth. You know, it's just crazy. You know, and at the very end, you get this crazy amalgam of just dog and Blair and human and alien and tentacles. It's just this mess. You know, it's just so to have something so iconic have no set standard for visual. Like, you know what the Predator looks like. You know what the Xenomorphs from Alien look like. You know what Michael Myers looks like. What does the thing look like? Nobody knows. So it's just, that's crazy that they pulled that off. I can't to be in that room when John Carpenter's pitching the idea. It would be probably just a swarm of just no, that sounds stupid. But man, I'm glad he stuck to his guns, man, because this movie is timeless.
Yeah, I mean, you list some of that stuff off there. The practical effects are fantastic. Um, the scene where one of the doctors is, you know, looking at the guy who just had the heart attack, and he's trying to bring him back to life. And it's funny because in that scene, whenever he gets his arms bitten off, I think they used like a midget that had like no arms or something in that scene. I think that's what they did, or something like that. And it's crazy. And the practical effects are just fantastic. The head spider just coming off of the guy's head and just growing like legs. I mean, it's it's disgusting, but it's good. It's good work. And it really makes you you know, want to see that more in film. I mean, I understand, a lot of things is CGI now, but it's just so good. It's so good. And, you wish you could see it more.
Mm-hmm. You
Um,
know, I don't care what decade it is, practical effects will always look better than CGI. Always, every time, 100% of the time. Don't care. The robotic dinosaurs from Jurassic Park will always look better than the CGI ones from Jurassic World. Always.
correct. Absolutely. And we get to one of the scenes, and I'm sorry, there's so many great scenes in this film. It's hard to pick them all because we really could
Mm-hmm.
talk about every single one of them. One of my favorites is whenever it's McCready and some of the other guys, they get sent out there to, go check on Blair or whatever. And it gets set up in a way where they find McCready's underwear, because you mentioned that he can't assimilate clothing. Well, you find McCready's underwear had kind of fallen out in the snow, and it's got his name on it. So people think, oh, he's the thing, because his clothes had got ripped off. He had turned into the thing, and he's missing out in the snow. They don't know where he's at. So all the guys are inside the back of the research center, and they're like, McCready's the thing, we know it, and this and that. They're all freaking out. They're sure of it. And then they hear someone kind of break it in, and they open this door, and it's McCready, and he's got this match of dynamite, and he's holding on to it, and he's pretty much frozen from head to toe. He's like shaking, and he's holding this light. He's like, I will blow this whole place up if you think I'm the thing. And like, he is like, I love him. I love Kurt Russell in this film. He's such a like a badass character, and it works on all levels because it's believable. And he threatens to blow the whole place up, and he's like, I dare you, like, try me, I will blow this whole place up. And I love that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, it plants a question, you have to answer it yourself. And the question being, how did McCready's clothes get ripped and placed out there in the snow? Well, think back in the movie, when they were outside, he was like, "We got to go up to my shack." McCready said this, and they were like, "Why?" He's like, "Because when I left yesterday, I turned the lights off." And you look, and McCready's shack's got a light on. So somebody
Correct.
broke in there and stole his clothes and planted it as evidence. And it was, by the end of the movie, you figure out it was Blair. So this movie is great, man. It plants those questions, and some of them don't even have a right answer. You just got to choose the answer you like best, and that's a fun movie. That's a fun way to do it, man. I don't want to be spoon fed the entire plot start to finish. I want to think about it. Exercise my brain a little bit. Horror doesn't do that like it used to, and this is a great example of it doing it. So, man, there's just so much good to say about it. Um, you know, it, Other than the plot and the practical effects, I mean, this really set the standard, man. And it doesn't clog up the screenplay either. Like the screenplay, I imagine, was probably like 20 pages long, right? Because they don't have expositional dialogue. There's no romantic subplot. There's not even a female character in this whole movie. It's just straight up, this alien's here. Who is it? Deal with it. Like that's it, dude. Like it doesn't get into the whole lore of the alien. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. Like it's crazy how it's a very minimalist horror movie, which it doesn't strike you as that, but it's so minimalist when you think about it. Like, dude, one set piece, 13 actors. The rest of the budget goes into practical effects, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to mention again the casting in this film is perfect. You've
Mhm.
got so many characters here. Um, let's see. I've got them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got about 10 or 11 guys in this film that they all fit perfect, and they
Mhm.
all have the perfect amount of you know relatability factor, and just they're so fleshed out but in so little of time that you could see these guys like, oh, I know these guys are a research team, they've been together for years all hanging out. And I think John Carpenter had them get there early or do quite a bit of bonding together just to get that real feel of them being together.
Mhm.
Because in the scenes in the film where they're just hanging out and they're just shooting pool or playing whatever and they're drinking and just hanging out and doing whatever, it feels real. It doesn't feel like, oh, these just a bunch of guys they put together in the film. No, these guys could believably be hanging out as a research team in the middle of Antarctica during the winter, and this could
Mhm.
happen to them. So it feels really real. And Kurt Russell obviously being the main role here. I mean, the other good characters, they serve their purpose well. They all feel meaningful in a way that you hate to see them die, or hate to see them turn on each other. You hate to see them do something negative, because you care about all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it does it the research space, it feels very lived in. Those people, they feel like they've been there and they feel like they've gotten in, scuffs with each other before. They feel like they're friends, they're bonded, they know each other. And the actors are memorable too, man. Even if they're just like nobody actors for the 80s, dude, I remember their faces, and that's something that the 2011 prequel didn't really do well, is because they didn't have that lived in aspect where they bonded before cameras started rolling too. So they're a little bit more forgettable. But dude, Windows, Childs, Bennings, Blair, McCready, all of them, like they all stick out, and it's not because they all have a 20-minute backstory established for the film, but it's because they feel real, man. And it's just so good. And it's just, dude, they nailed it. They really did. Have you seen the 2011 prequel?
I have not.
So the 2011 prequel, I was super excited about it, and it's more for the hardcore Thing fans. It's not for general audiences because it's all about the Norwegian base and what happened. Because like the last minute of that movie is the first minute of the original movie. So it's a cool prequel, but it's got its shortcomings that made what made the Thing in '82 so special. It's not really present, but they did a damn good job. We'll talk about it another time, but basically what I'm saying is that after the Thing, I can't think of a horror movie that just hits all those nails in the head. um I'm gonna go into my 4 golden rules here. It's to refresh you from the Halloween reviews. Let's talk about these 4 golden rules. So I have 4 golden rules. If you nail all 4, you get an A plus. You nail 3 of them, you get a B. You nail 2 of them, you get a C. You nail 1 of them, you get a D. You don't nail any of them, you're an F for a horror movie. These are my rules, right? Rule number 1: don't show me the monster. You show me a good look at the monster, the mystery's gone. I don't want it. The Thing is the whole reason I have that rule, right? You never get a good look at the Thing. There was a cut of the Thing where in the last sequence where McCready's getting ready to blow up the Blair monster thing in the tunnels. Because what you remember is he transforms. You see this rising shot of this giant practical effects just pile of corpses, right?
Yep.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that after that there was a static shot of the whole tunnel where you see head to toe this claymation version of that creature move in and doing the, you know how claymation looks with the frame rate. It looks so fake, right? They cut that in most of the releases. It's very hard to find. When you look at it, you're like, oh boy, I'm glad they got rid of that, because that would have been like the only sequence of CGI in the entire movie. They cut it entirely, so even the best look you get is not a good look. So the Thing, it's the gold standard for not showing you the monster. Not only is there no definitive form of it, but every time you see it, you have no idea what's going on. And they put a lot of effort into that practical effects. So there's a lot to see there. There's a lot to unpack with your eyes there. And they don't give you the chance to unpack it. So the mystery is always there. You always want to see what the Thing looks like. You never get a good, satisfying, yeah, I got the idea now. You always want to see more. So boom, you hit the nail on the head. You followed that rule very good. Rule number 2: be scary at all times. Don't just be scary when the threat's on screen. The definition of this movie is you have no idea who the threat is or where the threat is. Is it in this room with you or is it not? It's concealing itself. So the claustrophobia, being trapped in the room with or without that monster, the threat is always there. You have no idea when it's going to show. So yeah, dude, you nailed it. My 3rd golden rule: don't rely only on jump scares. I think this movie has a couple jump scares, but the horror aspect of it comes from the disgusting body horror and creature design and just the scary imagery and the sense of dread. You know, it's you have this anxiety at all times. You're like, what was that shadow? What was that shadow? Who was that? Which one of you guys was that? You know?
Yep.
And when it does show itself, it rears its ugly head, and it's some of the grossest thing you've ever seen in your life. You know, so it's boom. Don't rely only on jump scares. You nailed that. You're up to a B now. My final rule: push the boundaries. It was a lot easier for horror movies in the 70s and 80s to push the boundaries than it is now, right?
Correct.
Halloween set the standard, right? Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street kind of expanded on that standard. The Exorcist set the standard. Aliens set the standard. You know, they pushed the boundaries. You know, some of the old practical effects movies like The Thing with the body horror, dude, that's never been done before. You think someone's head turned into a spider when Hitchcock was around? I don't think so. So you're going to push those boundaries, and you're going to do something that not only, maybe even if it has been done, it hasn't been done to that extent that well, right? So boom, The Thing pushed all boundaries of horror. The claustrophobia, the lack of exposition, the mystery, the dread, the body horror, the practical effects, every boundary I could name, I think The Thing pushed it. So yeah, man, The Thing is an A plus for me, straight up. I got no complaints about this movie. I got no flaws with it. Little bit of continuity errors. 2 different days of them flying in a helicopter. McCready's wearing the same outfit, so I know that it was shot in the same sequence. But I don't care, man. I really don't, because this is, to me, the gold standard of horror movies. It has not done it this well since. It will never do it this well again. And yeah, man, that's all I have to say about it. This is an A plus, and it's the best horror movie of all time to me.
Okay, I agree with a lot of things that you said there. Pretty much everything you said there.
But not all of them.
Pretty much all of them. I I think you said you'd mentioned earlier to me during the week whenever we said we were going to do this, you had a piece of memorabilia that you wanted to share that is
Aha.
very
Yeah.
authentic to the
Yes, I did. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me show you this before we go any farther. So I love this movie, right? Favorite horror movie of all time. Also, the only horror movie I ever put in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Top 10 movies is the only horror movie in there. So, especially, right? I got this early Christmas present from my incredible fiance, who's the most amazing gift giver in the world. Let's see if I can fit this on screen here. So, you want to take a guess as to what this is?
It's The Thing.
It is every frame of the thing, uh, flattened down to a single frame.
Oh wow.
And here's the start. Here's the end. So you can see the color, the aesthetic of the thing. You really get the idea that, hey, they open up right here at the beginning, real snowy, real establishing peace, calm, tranquility. And as it gets going, it gets rapidly more jarring. You don't see the peaceful sequences of snow anymore. You don't see the establishing exterior shots anymore. You're trapped in a claustrophobia. Things are getting real difficult in there. You start dealing with fire. You start dealing with flares. You start dealing with some real ugly, ugly stuff, and you really want to go back. So this shows the transition of the beginning of the movie to the end, and just how rapidly it turns into just a shit show. And this is one of the coolest pieces of art I've ever seen in my life. Again, get a little closer. You can't really see good, but every line here is a different frame of the movie in order. So just to see the color coordination and the color grading and the range here, you really get an idea of like going from peaceful to shit hitting the fan. So I had to put that on there. This was amazing. This is one of the coolest gifts I've ever gotten. It's beautiful. It's hanging right above my desk now. This is amazing because it's so funny because I've seen things so many times. I can look at each line. I can tell you exactly what's going on in that line, what each frame is. So it's really cool. Really shows the transition from peace to dread here. And I just want to put that on screen because that's amazing.
That is very cool. That is very, very cool. I like that. I agree. The Thing, certainly one of the best horror films of all time, and I've only seen it twice. And for me, to really say a horror movie is one of the best of all time, takes repeated viewings. And for me to have only seen this 2 times, I can easily put it in my top 10 of all time. This is a fantastic movie. Something I wanted to mention is obviously the ending. There's been lots of theories of what people think. There's no right or wrong answer. Technically there is, but I don't know. I'll explain that in a minute. So at the end, we pretty much understand the Thing wants to hide and survive in the snow because that is the only way it can protect itself, is to be cold and not to be seen.
To go back to hibernation.
Correct. So we know that is a problem because they are in the middle of Antarctica. You can't get rid of all the snow. So their plan is essentially to blow up the base and to set it on fire and to cause as much, disintegration of snow as possible. And for them to do that really means that they are going to have to die to do that. And they kind of make that clear in a way, but not really. But this is the middle of night. There is no getting out of this. You're not going to fly a helicopter out of this. You're not going to drive a car out of this. They're going to blow this place up, and they are going to kill this thing or die trying. Okay. So in the ending, we get a couple of guys. I think it's McCready, Childs, Gary, and Knowles. Those are the last guys that are left. And, McCready comes up with this plan. And at this point, Childs and McCready have been neck and neck with each other. They've had some great tension. They respect each other, but they also don't like each other at the same time. They have very different methods of doing things. And we get to the ending here, and there's this scene, where they're planting these bombs out everywhere, and they're getting ready to blow this thing up. So they're down in the basement, and at this point, Blair, he's disappeared for a little while, and that's when we get the scene where he's the thing, and he takes hold of Gary and kind of morphs him with his hands. It's weird. He's like takes his fingers, puts it in his face, and like blows up his face and like controls it. It's crazy. And so at this point, McCready's he's laying down all the traps, all the bombs, and the other guys starting to get picked off one by one. And he's like, "Are you there? Are you there?" They're gone. And then all of a sudden the thing kind of like pops up underneath, the ground. And we get one of the great lines where, they're both going at it. And then McCready just goes, "Well, F you two," and just throws a Mazel tov down there and blows the whole place up. And it just massive explosion. It's great. We think that's the end. And then we get the scene where, McCready's just, he's blown up the thing, possibly, we don't really know. And he's just beaten to shreds, dude. He's torn down, he's tired. He's just sitting there in the middle of the night with with the fire in the background. He's just laying there. He just, you thinking this is his last breath. And then Childs comes out of nowhere, and he's in the same shape too. And he kind of sits there. He's like, "Hey, where you been? I thought you got, picked off." He's like, "Well, I thought you got picked off." And they're just sitting there, both kind of sharing a last laugh together. And they pull out a drink, and he's like, "Hey, what are we gonna do?" And they just both take a sip. He passes it to Childs. He takes a sip, and they just kind of lay there. And that's the end of the film. And it's really, symbolic, because it's been so much debate on, is any of them the thing, or both of them the thing, or are they not the thing? Did they end up killing it? There's been theories as to, apparently in the film you can't see Child's breath at the very end of the film. People think that's a sign that he is, the thing. There's also theories about the eye color that they have, that apparently you can't see reflection in the thing's eyes. I personally, I believe none of them are the thing. I think they both, it's very played up that Childs is the thing because he's been gone for so long and he comes in at the end. I personally think they both aren't, and that they both kind of just gave it their last all, and then they kind of just died in the elements there. And then that was the end of the film. Now, there is also a game for the Xbox original that is theoretically, according to John Carpenter, canon, and that McCready is still alive. So take that for what you will. Technically, he said it's canon, so I guess he's still alive. But yeah, it's just it's widely debated what really happened at the end and who is what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I own that game. The game isn't focused on McCready, but yeah, it is technically canon. Because we never got a thing sequel, it's best we got. I don't put much stock into it though. But yeah, this ending is intentionally very ambiguous, very open for interpretation. You said that you don't think either one of them were the thing.
That's what I choose to believe. I think they both just kind of, I think McCready, tried his best. I don't think he is the thing. And then I think Childs just went off, and he just maybe got attacked by somebody, or something happened to him, or I don't know. And then they kind of just stumbled upon each other. I think they're both not the thing, because, if Childs was the thing, why wouldn't he just attack him and kill him?
Right.
Or vice versa. I mean, I don't know.
It's one of those endings, like the ending of Inception, dude. There's no wrong answer. Whatever answer you think fits the story the best, that's the way it's got to go. The best kind of movie is the one that keeps you creating the story after the credits roll. Inception did that. Prisoners did that. The Thing does that. So to theorize what comes next, you have a blast with that, man. Growing up with this movie, I always had the theory that that McCready was secretly the thing, and when he gave him the booze and Charles drank it and he laughed, I was like, oh, I just infected him. So I always had that theory. As I matured a little bit, I leaned more towards the theory of neither one of them. Do you know the official explanation from John Carpenter?
I feel like I have read it, but I don't remember. So tell me.
So in like a collector's edition DVD commentary or something like that, he finally revealed, like decades later, he was like, "Yeah, so a lot of people don't know how to tell who was the thing and who wasn't, but in post when we were doing the editing, I had them go in and put a little glint of light reflection in their eyeballs. So if their eyeball reflected light, they were human." Um, of course, that made people go back and overanalyze the ending in 4K, and you realize that both of their eyes are reflecting light, so they're both human. Um, but even before that, man, it was fun to not have that closure and to not have that mystery, because, like McCready said, he was like, "Hey, if either one of us are the thing, I don't think either one of us are in any shape to do anything about it anyway." So they both
Correct.
kind of gave up. So such a beautiful ending, man, and just so wonderful. And I want a sequel, and I really do. And I think there's a way to do the sequel without trampling over that ambiguous ending. I think there is a way, to open up a second movie where you just have the bodies of Childs and McCready, and the thing appears out of one of them, but you don't know which body it appeared out of. I think that's my theory. But here's me running wild with these ideas after the credits roll, because it's such a good movie, man. It's one of those thinking man horror films, and those are the best. So I said it in some of my Halloween reviews, like it. I want to think about it. I don't want to just watch blood splatter everywhere. I want to think about it. I want to have the dread. I want to have theories. I love that stuff. So that's just that's it, man. My favorite John Carpenter movie, my favorite horror movie of all time. It really doesn't get better than that. But I want to hear your rating. I want to hear your pitfalls, your pros and cons. What do you not like about this movie? Is what I'm most interested in, and give me a rating.
Man, there's first off, I'm gonna give it an A+. I am. I think this is one of the top tier films of horror films for sure, and one of John Carpenter's best films. I think in a lot of ways, maybe because I've seen Halloween a lot more than I've seen The Thing, I'm able to pick out more flaws with Halloween than I have The Thing. So I really don't have any cons for this at the moment. It's a great film. I think it's also one of the best films in terms of, you know, obviously for Halloween, you have think of the October season, leaves falling. You think of Friday 13th, you think of the summertime at the lake, at the camp, hanging out. You think of there's so many other films that are dedicated to certain times. You think of this film, when it snows outside, when it's cold, when there's where we're at, we don't get a lot of snow, but still, if you think about this time of year and you think about isolation, darkness, snow, and it makes me think of The Thing, and it makes me think of that setting in that period. Also, the cover is fantastic. The poster, you get the picture of this thing in like in clothing, and it has like the shining blue face. It's great. I love it. It's one of the best posters of all time. Um, I love the score. I love John Carpenter. I'm a Kurt Russell guy. I like a lot of his movies. He kills it in this role. The supporting actors are fantastic. I think there's not really a lot of negative I can say about this film. I put it off for a long time, and I'm glad that you finally, urged me to watch it. For you being, because you're like, this is my favorite horror film of all time. So I was like, okay, I gotta see this movie. I gotta see what he's talking about. And it's right up there, man. It's I've only seen it 2 times, and for me, it's in my top 10 horror films of all time already. So it's a great film. I can't really say a negative thing about it. I love all the scenes. There's so many great scenes to pick from. I mean, we could spend another 2 hours going scene by scene talking about what we think's the best, but for me, it's a great film. It really is.
Yeah, I think anyone vetted in horror like you or I am will see that this is worst case top 10 horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me ask you this: is it because you grew up with Halloween? First of all, what is your favorite Halloween movie? Favorite horror movie? Because I just established on record that this is my favorite horror movie. What is your favorite horror movie, and why is the thing not above that?
For me, it is my favorite horror film of all time, and we will review this. I want to do it during the summertime because I think that's the best time to do it, is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ooh.
The original is, there are certain films, there are only a handful, and I mean like a handful, where I've watched the movie and after I got done, I'm like, I feel a certain type of way. I feel like I can't believe what I just watched. I can't believe what I just witnessed. I'm shooken with thoughts, fear, whatever. I feel like the first time I saw the original Texas Chainsaw, I felt like I needed to take a shower, and I felt like it almost drove me crazy that the lengths this movie went to. It's tough for me to say why The Thing isn't better, because I when I watched The Thing, I was like, holy shit, like this was great. Like for me, what makes a great film is if after I see it, I go and research the crap out of it. I go through on my phone, I'm looking up theories, I'm looking up things on Reddit. I want to know more about it. That's what really makes a good film for me, that I want to know more. For this, when I watched The Thing, I wanted to know more. I did a lot of research. I wanted to go more into it and look it up. And, it's definitely in my top 10. We're gonna review the Texas Chainsaw, the original, later on this year or next year. But for me, it's tough to say exactly why, but The Thing, definitely for me to only see it 2 times and to be in my top 10 is tough, because my top 10 is, and we're gonna do a video on that one day, our top 10s. And
Yeah,
my top 10 is there's so many different films from different eras and years that I could pick and choose from. It's so tough to do. But for The Thing to already be in the top 10 after only seeing it 2 times, that says a lot.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's good. I was getting ready to fight you on whatever you were gonna say, and then you pull out Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, he's got a point. All right, yeah, I got you. See, I went back and forth on what I thought. The Thing has always been my favorite, but when people ask me what I think the best is objectively, I'm torn between The Thing and The Exorcist. Those are the two movies that I'm torn between, because I think The Exorcist is the only movie other than The Thing that nailed those four golden rules and really like shook the foundation of horror films. But yeah, man, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is up there, up there. I'm excited to talk about that one now. I mean,
Don't
yeah,
don't get, don't get me started on The Exorcist either, because that is
we gotta talk about that one because even if The Thing is my favorite, The Exorcist could very well be the greatest horror movie of all time. We'll
that
talk. I don't,
that for many people is by far considered the number one. And I'm not going to get too far into it, but that is
Yeah.
certainly a great film, and
Yeah.
definitely is up there in that upper echelon.
Yeah, we'll save that for that review. But I'm glad to hear that what you rank higher than The Thing is something as good as Texas Chainsaw. So we'll talk about that.
I think that being a big John Carpenter fan, because I've seen a lot of his stuff, I've started to get more into his discography. I think this is a better. I like Halloween more because I've just grown up with it more. I can put that on more times than I would put The Thing on, but I think The Thing is a better made film, and I think it is a better written film. It's a different movie, obviously, but I think it is a better made, well written, all around film than Halloween. I really do.
Do you think Halloween's John Carpenter's best, or do you think The Thing is?
I think The Thing is probably his best. I think Halloween is his most famous, and it is still a fantastic movie, but I think The Thing is a better all-around film. And maybe we can do a video on that one day, compare the two, what we think is really the best. But I think that at the end of the day, Halloween, while very simplistic, The Thing is simplistic, but there's so many other theories and things. In Halloween, it's the main thing is, okay, why is Michael doing this? Why? That's kind of your big thing. In The Thing, there's so many theories about who is the Thing, who could be the Thing, why did it do this, why did they do that? I mean, there's so many different ways you can go. There's a lot more to to think about and to chew on than in Halloween.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just out of curiosity, I just looked up John Carpenter's filmography on IMDb. We an IMDb household. We don't do Rotten Tomatoes in this house. You understand me? So I sorted his director filmography by popularity. The Thing is number one. They Live is number two, surprisingly, with Halloween coming in at number three on popularity. That's surprising that They Live without popular Halloween. I looked at IMDb rating, like that's just the rating. The Thing is number one with the 8.2, and Halloween is 7.7, so it's number two. So that's surprising to me. Obviously I feel validated that The Thing is up there, but I'm surprised to see They Live over Halloween. But I am not surprised to see the Thing up there. So
I
I don't
think
know.
I think also, now I don't know how much of this is true, but this is just my opinion that with the new trilogy coming out and just the Halloween like hysteria for the past couple years has just been through the roof. I mean, I personally, for me, like I said it after we did the Halloween review series, and I'll say it again. I don't want to see another Halloween movie until next Halloween. Like I don't even want to touch it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to. I could care less. I love Michael Myers. I love the franchise, but I'm just it's very overplayed, and I'm just ready to get away from it for a little while.
It's funny that you say get away from it because what a lot of people don't realize is that now that Firestarter has come out and did or didn't do whatever it was supposed to do, Blumhouse is on to their next project. You know what their next project is?
The Exorcist.
No, The Thing rebooted.
Really?
Blumhouse is rebooting The Thing. Don't know what year. John Carpenter knows about it. He says he can't share any details. But the fact that John Carpenter is involved, what Blumhouse did with Michael Myers, the fact that they're going to come and do something with The Thing, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. I'm nervous, obviously, apprehensive, like we were at the beginning of Halloween 2018. But Blumhouse is taking on The Thing, and
Interesting.
as a diehard Thing fan, I should be hating it, but I'm excited.
You see, I that's the thing with remakes, and I promise I won't make this long because I know we're talking about the thing, but Blumhouse is also, they've taken on the rights for The Exorcist. They're going to be 3 films in The Exorcist new trilogy, which they're going to start working on at the beginning of next year. You know, it, People say you can't remake this movie, that you can't do it. It can't be better than the original, which most times that is correct, but these films are so classic. The Exorcist, The Thing, Halloween, they're so classic that if people try to remake them, it's not going to take away from having the original film. Because if it sucks, okay, no big deal. I still have the original. I can go back to that. If the remake is good, oh, cool. I've got another cool reiteration of this movie that I can go and watch. So I never really understood you can't remake that. Like, you can't remake The Exorcist. It's the best film of all time. Like, okay, well, if it sucks, then okay, guess what? I'll go back and watch the original, and I won't care. But if the new one is good, then hey, it's another good film I get to watch.
Yeah, and that's the real truth about it. A+ movies like Halloween and Alien, and Jaws and The Exorcist. Yeah, you can't remake them, but the difference between The Thing and Alien and Halloween and The Exorcist is The Thing never had any sequels. They never had any second tries. They never failed. They had a one and done. They had a prequel, but no one's gonna reboot a prequel, right? So you have the prequel. You'll always have the prequel. Halloween, when you come in and make a new version of it in 2018, and you have to tell people ignore everything else, that's a big command. I think part of the reason I'd be okay with a Thing 2 is because we never had one. So
Yeah,
um
that's a good point.
it's I would rather see Blumhouse do like a requel, like what they did with Halloween 2018, to reboot The Thing. It's like asking Blumhouse to remake the original Halloween. Yeah, Rob Zombie did it, and he added something nice to it, but it ain't the original, right? So to remake it, you're not going to be able to pull off an A+ again.
Right.
Um, but to do a sequel, I think you could. So I'd rather see Blumhouse try their hand at a sequel and aim for the A+ there rather than a remake, because you're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
But I either way, I'm okay with it. I want to see more. I want more of the thing. I think the thing needs to make a resurgence. I want to see some, dude. I want a book. I've been on the lookout for the book that inspired the thing from like the 40s. I've been trying to find it in every bookstore I went into.
That's
Dude, I
right.
want to see.
You didn't mention the original The Thing from Another World in the 50s.
We ain't talking about that one, but you know what I'm saying. Like, but no, I want to see more of the thing. I think the thing deserves way more franchise opportunities than some of the other properties. And I'm excited to see what Blumhouse does. I hope it's a requel. I hope there's expanding on the story and not just retelling it. But we're gonna see.
I agree. I think there's also a lot of things that you can do because you never really there's no definitive version of what the thing looks like you said in the review.
Right.
There's no like you see oh, that's Michael Myers, oh, that's Freddy Krueger, oh, that's Jason. Like,
And with Michael Myers, you're like, oh, that mask isn't really good. Like, like you have standards, right? The thing has no definitive look. And as long as you're going practical with it, which is something that the prequel failed with, as long as you have practical effects, anything could be the thing.
correct. So yeah, you never know. You could go a lot of different directions with it, but all in all, there's no review that we can do this film justice other than to just talk about it, our personal experience with it. We went and saw it this past summer in the theaters. It was awesome experience getting to see it on
40th anniversary. What an event, man. Seeing that in the theaters is nothing like it.
It was very cool experience. So yeah, that's our review of the thing. We both give it an A+. This is definitely one of those top tier classics. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and check it out. Don't be like me and wait forever. Go watch it, especially this time of year when it's cold outside. Maybe you're watching somewhere where there's a lot of snow. That makes it even better.
Yeah, man. And if you like the thing, watch the prequel, man. Obviously doesn't live up to it, but it expands the story very nicely without torturing what John Carpenter came up with. So I highly recommend it.
I have not seen the prequel, but I do know there is a little bit of a fan base for it. People that do like it a lot.
I like the prequel a lot only because I'm so passionate about the thing. It's easy to come in and say the prequel screwed it up. No, the prequel did great. Prequel was really good. The problem is, and we're not going to devote a lot of time to this, but here's the bottom line with the thing. The Thing prequel in 2011 was so damn good with story and setting the starting positions for the original. Dude, exploring the Norwegian team where they find the UFO, digging up the creature. The creature's first forms at the Norwegian base, what it does, the new revelations about it. You understand the motive of the creature a little better before it takes the form of a husky, right? So it's really good, but its biggest pitfall is the studio, Universal. They watched it and they used all practical creature effects, all animatronics. They were true to Carpenter's vision. All robotics, all practical effects. It looked good. One of the great tragedies of 2010 cinema, though, studio stepped in, said, it's 2011. We want CGI. They had to go back. They had to CGI all the creature scenes. Didn't have enough time to render it all. Dude, there was a second species of extraterrestrial that we didn't learn about in the 82 version. I'm not going to spoil the whole story, but the story was expanded so good in the prequel, and you found out a lot. But the CGI, man, they went in, they tried to make this big budget CGI blockbuster for 2011. It didn't age well, and so it kind of got forgotten. But for diehard Thing fans, and you included, watch it, man. I think it's great. It expands the story so well, and it changes nothing about the 82 version. It sets it up so perfectly, and it really makes the 82 version hit harder.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. I know there's a lot of good things about it that people do enjoy, but yeah, so thanks for tuning in here to Every Horror Film Where Horror is Forever. We are going to try to get one more review out before Christmas, a Christmas related film. And you know what? I've been preaching it for a long time. I want Jeff to go see this movie. I'm going to try to watch it this week. As a matter of fact, I am going to watch it this week. Go and see Black Christmas, the original.
I want to watch that.
That is
I've heard
the
a lot of good
movie.
things about that.
That is the movie that I want to do next before Christmas comes. So we got a week to do it. It is the most underrated horror film I have ever seen. It is the absolute prototype to the slasher genre. It's free on a lot of what you can watch it on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi. It's on YouTube. I mean,
It's on Peacock too.
It's on Peacock. Yeah, there's a lot of places you can watch it. So we're gonna get together and review that before Christmas next Sunday. But I love that movie. I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out because I've never heard of it, and he recommends it highly. So yeah, I'm gonna make it my goal to watch that the next day or two and see if we can knock out a review before then.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Subscribe to the channel and go check out our Halloween review series if you haven't seen it so far. In case you haven't got enough Michael Myers Halloween in your life, go and check out our reviews. For some reason, we can't figure it out. Halloween H2O is our most viewed video.
You guys tell me, man, what is it in that video that you're seeing that we're not? Did we have like a nip slip or something? Because there's something in that video that is just popping off that we don't understand why we're over 1,000 views on H2O and nothing else.
I don't know. It's like the original has like 100 reviews, H2O 1K. It's weird, but
yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Go check it out, subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next one.